Hello, everyone. Thanks for joining us today for another humble and hungry conversation. And also good to see you, Gabby. Thanks for joining us. We can jump right into it. Gabriella is the founder of accesSOS and also a 2021 CBV Fellow. I introduced you briefly, Gabby, but please share a little bit more about yourself and the work that you're doing with accesSOS.
Thank you, Liv, and we're so good to see you. Gabby, founder of accesSOS, we're a tech nonprofit, and our mission is to make emergency help accessible and equitable for all. And where our journey started is we just want to change the state of the emergency health system. For any emergency, we usually call 911 for help. And what we found is there's 37 million Americans who are deaf or hard of hearing that cannot speak out loud or hear a 911 dispatcher. And we're just trying to bridge that gap in access by making emergency help accessible and equitable for all.
Thank you for sharing that and always appreciate the work that you're doing. So we did have the opportunity actually to interview you at the beginning of the year, and you had some really exciting things that were in the works then. But can you catch us up on what you've been up to since we last connected?
Yes. So some stuff that we've been up to in 2023, it's been a really impactful year for us at accesSOS. And it's the power of being a nonprofit in tech. Because we're a nonprofit, we approach the way we solve our problems in two ways: through advocacy and awareness building, and through technology. And we build technology that reimagines what an accessible emergency system looks like. And because we're a nonprofit, I believe that that gives us a lot of credibility in terms of marketing and PR coverage. So since we last all connected, I want to say I think the two things we're most proud of is we got coverage from Vox Media and Now This, highlighting the inaccessible 911 system. And we also got coverage by Lester Holt, NBC Nightly News. So we were able to get on a national stage there. And I want to mention one other thing. USA Today recently published an op-ed, me asking why voice is the go-to option when it leaves out underserved communities that can't communicate via voice, need a text-based system to communicate, may not communicate in English. So I want to say those are the three things I'm most proud of for 2023.
So beautiful. Thank you for sharing all of those wins. What I know you've probably answered this in some ways, and when we first asked you, but what life experiences inspired you to pursue entrepreneurship and led you to found accesSOS?
Some of you may already know this, but I wouldn't call myself an entrepreneur. I'm an accidental entrepreneur. I never wanted to be a founder. Growing up, I didn't even know what that was. I think coming from immigrant community, my parents just wanted me to be a doctor or a lawyer. I feel that's very a common story. So being an entrepreneur, had no idea what that was. But what led me to pursue just making a change and a solution and creating a nonprofit that makes that change is, as I said, my parents are immigrants, but also my parents are deaf, and they came to the United States in pursuing opportunity. And the US is pretty good compared to where they came from in Asia with opportunity. But it wasn't until my deaf father had a medical emergency and was alone and was not able to call 911 for help, and instead texted me to contact 911 for him. But I was not near my phone at that time. And that's when my father drove himself to the ER and almost crashed. His head was hunched, and he could barely look above the steering wheel. And luckily, he survived his medical emergency because he was able to drive himself. But that's really what made me see how broken the system is, how it favors people that speak English. It prefers people that are able to communicate via voice and leaves out many people like my parents. So that led me on this very difficult journey to solve this very, very complex problem.
Thank you for sharing that and being vulnerable and just sharing the truth in how accesSOS got started. What has been the biggest challenge for you as a BIPOC founder, woman founder, specifically in tech?
I would say the biggest challenge for me is if I was a for-profit venture or a nonprofit venture, either paths, you need funding to get started. And how do you crack a system where decision makers don't look like you and they're the ones that hold power and they don't look like me? People relate better to people that have shared experiences as they do. And I don't have the same shared experiences as they do. And so how do I crack that system? And I find that is very frustrating. It's really tough to be in a room with people that don't look like me, and I have to talk with them and connect with them on a personal level so that they can unlock the doors and unlock the paths to success for me, my team, and to drive the mission forward. And so I would say, as a BIPOC woman founder, that has probably been the toughest thing to face. How do I talk to someone about golf when I don't play it, or, have that shared experience when other people are able to talk about that? That's just a very, on the surface example. But I would say that's been the toughest thing. But there are strategies that I can talk about later that I've used to unlock that and cope with those situations that I face.
Actually, that would be perfect to lead into right now in regards to strategy or how you've overcome those specific obstacles.
The way I've overcome that, and I wouldn't say that I have figured out the magic way to solve that, but remember that I deserve a seat at the table, that I fought so hard to get to where I am. And my team has fought so hard to drive our mission forward that our work really does speak for itself. We really emphasize integrity at our team, and having that confidence and say that these people have the privilege to support our work, instead of me saying, let me ask you for help, but they have the privilege to solve this problem with me and alongside me. I would talk to myself going into those rooms by saying they have the privilege to support our work, versus in the past, it was, I feel like, a different mindset. So changing my mindset has really helped me have that confidence in approaching those conversations and being in those rooms.
Thank you for sharing that, and also just emphasizing the overall structures and systems that are in place that you have to navigate to. That it's not just you alone. What advice would you share with your younger self in regards to becoming a founder, an entrepreneur, or an accidental entrepreneur?
I would say the advice that I would share with myself is really to trust my gut. There are times where I feel like I should have made that decision sooner, and my gut was right in that sense. So I would say to my younger self, follow your gut, find the people, because I can't do this by myself. I would say that, Gabby, you can't do this by yourself. You need to find the people to join your team and to help build that ship that I'm looking for to solve that problem. And so I would tell my younger self to follow my gut and to really look for the people that are passionate and want to help and really want to make change to drive our mission forward.
Beautiful. I love all of those reminders. How has the Camelback Fellowship supported your growth as a leader and the growth of your venture?
I can say so many things about how the Camelback Fellowship has really helped. First, my peers, my cohort, and people not even in my cohort, we exchange a lot of information about funders. They are the ones that uniquely understand what I'm going through. So I keep in touch with my cohort to this day. I feel like they're my family. I also feel like I could turn to them with wins, and we do celebrate our wins together. But not just that, we talk and debrief about some of the sorrows that we've gone through in the journey of entrepreneurship. So, first, I would say my cohort and my peers. We're all invested in each other's success. I would say the second thing is my advisor, my Camelback advisor. I just spoke with Scott yesterday. So we keep in touch, and he's just been a rock of support in my ups and downs. And third, I would say not just credibility wise, but when I talk, give a presentation, and they introduce me as a Camelback Fellow, I think that adds a sense of credibility as well to our work, to know that you all have supported us from the very beginning. Is also really impactful for us. And just a random story, I was at a fundraiser a couple weeks ago, and they said, "Oh, Camelback Fellow," and Peter is also a Camelback fellow. So just like being in connection with people that are strangers in the room and having that common connection has been really helpful too.
I'd love to hear all that. Community is definitely a big piece of the Camelback fam, all of that. So I love hearing that, and that you got to meet Peter so recently.
Yeah, Peter's awesome.
Yes. Well, we're going to shift gears a little bit. So we're going to talk about your legacy. 10 years from now, how do you envision health equity or health access being different as a result of the work that you're doing now?
I would say that in 10 years, my hope is that someone who does not communicate via voice, prefers to communicate via in the language that they grew up with, doesn't have to wonder if they have access to an ambulance or wonder if they have access to a fire truck to help them take out their fire. They just don't have to wonder, that the system just works efficiently and serves them and meets them where their needs are.
Thank you for that. Always grounding in like the what you're doing now for the future, but also what has been. When you think, kind of adding on to what you just said, when you think about the work that you're doing with Access and the future world that you're hoping to create, how would you define impactful entrepreneurship?
I would define impactful entrepreneurship as someone who is proximate to the problem. And what I mean by that is someone who uniquely understands the problem that their community, around who they grew up with, the problems that they're facing, and they uniquely understand what tools, what can be built, what programs can be developed to uniquely solve that problem. Because while at accesSOS we talk about scalability, we uniquely understand our community and what they trust and what they don't trust. And if we build a solution for them, that work speaks for itself. So I would say lived experience and direct connection in talking with community members every day about ways to strategize and to solve the problem. I would say that's the definition of impactful entrepreneurship.
Thank you for that. Yeah, that's beautiful. So you're currently running a petition campaign to pass the Communications, Video, and Technology Accessibility Act bill and make it a federal law. Can you tell us a little bit more about the petition and how folks can get involved and support?
Yes. So I'm going to share the change.org petition. Where that came from is the FCC, the Federal Communications Commission, on the federal level, the Department of Justice, and Congress. When we've talked to them about why this problem, 911 is not accessible for our community members, in particular deaf and hard of hearing folks, their response back has been, where's the data? Where is the data that shows that they don't have access? Why isn't the ADA, when we talk about the Americans with Disabilities Act, ADA, it doesn't cover new communication technologies. And so they turn to the Americans with Disabilities Act and say, well, we have an accessible 911 system because we have something called teletypewriters at every 911 call center. But teletypewriters, my parents threw theirs away 10 years ago. And so we have this thing called cell phones and we text. And so 911 still has not changed their system to accept text messages when most of us text each other, including me and my parents, and probably most of us. And so this petition is the data that they are asking for, showing that we need proof in numbers that this is a non-accessible system and that this voice-only preference really needs to change. And so I encourage you all, you asked how people could get involved. I'm going to drop the change.org petition. Please sign it. It just takes less than 30 seconds. I've tried it myself to show that proof that this is an issue that needs to have that focus.
Thank you, Gabriella. Thank you for also giving the background of that bill and the specific need for shifting this. And folks, as Gabriella said and dropped, the go sign the change.org petition. So moving on a little bit more, what else is next for your venture in 2024 and beyond? So this could be more campaigns, other highlights, any events.
So 2024, super excited. So in 2023, we're in 3 cities, accesSOS. And in 2024, we're taking a state-by-state approach and launch, because the sooner our accessible technology is in the hands of our beneficiaries, the more and more people have access to it, the better. And that really serves making emergency help accessible for all. So very excited. Our goal is to launch state by state. Not fingers crossed, but keep tuned as to which states we're doing our strategic planning this month. As to which states we have a definite answer, but I don't want to say it until a little bit later. But a state by state approach for that launch. We're going to go to Washington for this bill and for this petition, and show that TTY is such an old legacy technology. We need to make a change to accommodate new technologies. So those are the 2 things on the horizon that we're very, very excited about.
So exciting. I'm glad you said that, because my question was actually going to be which states. So we'll keep an eye out later this month. But that's all of that is exciting. And congrats to the work ahead and your team as well.
Thank you.
So we know that the journey of entrepreneurship is filled with high highs and low lows. But what are some ways that you practice self-care, especially during the low lows?
So ways I practice self-care, and thank you for recognizing, Liv, that it's definitely highs and lows. What really brings me self-care is being an entrepreneur and having meetings every day and being connected on my screen can be tough sometimes. And so the way I practice self-care is people think I'm very crazy, but I like to swim in the ocean. And technology, you can't bring your phone, you can't bring your laptop into the water. So that gives me an hour every day to just disconnect and make me feel alive and refreshed. And it really just makes me get back to work and feeling rejuvenated. So that's the way I practice self-care. People may think it's crazy, but I absolutely love the feeling of cold water and being surrounded by water. I'm a water person.
I am a water person too, so I understand that. I love that that was your answer. I don't think I've ever heard anyone say that they love to swim in the ocean. So I actually really love that.
I love it.
Um,
Awesome.
yeah, I'm a water person, so I get you. Is
Nice.
there anything else that you want to share with folks or add before we close out?
I think one last thing I want to say is thank you, Camelback, for believing in me at the very beginning. That's the first thing I want to say. The second thing I want to say is um, I am passionate about emergency access in that sense, but I'm also passionate about supporting female founders out there. So if you
Mm,
want any advice, I'm always willing to be a sounding board or a thought partner because I think we need more people, women founders out there. So um, please connect with me if you're starting early on your journey and need that support.
beautiful. And to round it out, how can people connect with you to learn more and to collaborate?
I will put in my email, my LinkedIn. Please connect with me there. And maybe I'll add our social medias as well, accesSOSs.
Awesome. Thank you, Gabriella, for taking the time today to speak with us and to share with folks a little bit more about your journey and what you're up to right now. Folks, I hope you enjoy the rest of your day and received a little wisdom from Gabby.
Thank you, Liv.